So Donald Trump won the presidency, and I have mixed feelings about it. I don't like liberals. I'm happy the liberals didn't win. I also don't like white supremacy. Um, I think he's an in-the-closet white supremacist who believes that whites and Jews are supposed to be above other races. I think it'll be more difficult for me to secure my rightful position as the top martial artist. And it'll be more for racial reasons rather than political ones. We have entered another 4 years of white power. There'll be an emphasis on white power. Recently I did a interview, which I'll post later, with a lady with 2 degrees about Master He Il Cho, I believe his name is, 8th degree black belt, 50 years of experience in martial arts, in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and he wrote 30, had a 30 video series on martial arts and so on. He agrees with me about the emphasis on sparring being the main aspect of martial arts. He talks about confidence and how sparring gains, you gain confidence, and it shows the transferable skills, including timing and concentration, also about the mind-body. That's coming soon. But the main reason I put this introduction here is because I want you all to be very aware that from here on out, even in this liberal blue state, we will probably see a lot of white supremacists and things of this nature trying to keep it from getting out that I'm the top martial artist. First of all, don't take my kindness for weakness. I intend to bring change by any means necessary. Now, for all you people who are less than rich, like myself, it's not a good idea to buy a bunch of t-shirts like this. However, since I make videos, and when they're new, I can kind of capture that, for a long time, if not for the rest of, technology's existence, perhaps. It is not such a bad idea. I like to give a shout out to my brown brothers, my yellow brothers, my white brothers, my off-red brothers, and so on. My style of martial arts is not like the Asian martial arts for many reasons. I believe in a more natural and less kind of architectural kind of style, less temple style. The temple style in many ways is not only inspired by the animals, but it's inspired by the temple's design itself, with very precise measurements, etc. This has a very profound effect on the mind, and I have, a certain respect for it. Just like I have a certain respect for UFC fighting, though I do not consider it a valid martial arts competition. It is a valid fight competition, and it does show a lot of fighting skills, sports fighting. Now, when it comes to my style, it is more an animalistic or natural style where you see how animals fight. They exert themselves in a certain way that is effective and is natural. They don't take the time to measure their strikes. It is something that is passed on instinctually and genetically. And that is what I focus on. However, I do not believe in eugenics or that any race is superior only for the reason that there is no valid measurement of intelligence or anything else. So to say that one race is superior, you would have to take into account every aspect of their genetic code. And remember, their genetic code is very diverse. We're all related to each other. So there's not too many genes that one group has that another group can't have as well for that reason, if any. So when you look at this thing, I believe and the same ideas as Malcom X, by any means necessary, bringing change, separation. What I've seen is that when we integrate, the dominant race, infiltrates the other races, especially when you have, the dominant race being the majority. For example, the dominant race during apartheid in South Africa was white people, even though they were the minority. But when they are the majority and the dominant race, they emphasize infiltration, subversion, and behavior control. Behavior modification is part of behavior control, controlling behavior. I'm not a terrorist. I don't believe in attacking soft targets. Myself, I do believe that when you do not give someone a choice in a war, then it begins to make more sense, So I don't completely condemn it, though I don't approve of it, if you get my drift. I don't know how to make bombs, I probably could figure it out, but I don't believe in that. I don't have any bomb making materials. I don't take that route. Again, I emphasize natural combat, and that is, there's a spiritual aspect to it that, sports and unnatural forms of combat just don't have. And so that is truly what martial arts are. They're combat traditions. Now, one can make the argument that they evolved into, heavy armor combat and so on, okay? But then you'd have to say that, well, maybe the combat traditions in America of, training with a rifle and stuff could also be considered martial arts. So you have to draw the line somewhere, if you see what I mean. And I draw the line when you start wearing armor and you start going away from nature. And so going back to my system, it's very similar to capoeira, where there are blows that have certain techniques, and they are graceful and beautiful. I don't put an emphasis on flexibility or, doing flashy moves. For example, kicks to the face, they will be done when I feel that my opponent doesn't expect them, but there won't be a lot of flashy moves, spin moves, and moves like this, flying spin kicks and so on, because it simply is not practical in combat application. It's much more practical to be like a leopard. Does a leopard do fancy flip moves and then attack? Or does he just lunge and strike effectively? And you might block once or twice. The animal might escape one or two blows, or one or two blows might not land extremely effectively, but eventually he gets there. So it is sort of a leopard style, but there are also aspects of the falcon. The falcon likes to defend himself in a way that makes him virtually untouchable. And then he swoops down super fast and strikes effectively and destroys the prey. So there's an element of the falcon. There's also an element of the elephant. Once one establishes himself as this kind of a fighter, his presence is big, like an elephant. It's a large spiritual presence, vibe, an aura, if you will. So this is what it is, So yeah, I really just wanted to say that for now and show off my new shirt. I'll probably be wearing this pretty soon, one of these videos. I don't know if you can see it, the camera can see it, by any means necessary, okay? You can imagine it's a very controversial shirt to wear. I probably consider it more controversial than wearing a Black Panther shirt, because he was a Muslim, and it's, that one could argue that ISIS could justify wearing this shirt or something, right? But it's really how you take it, There's a thin line between a terrorist and a revolutionary, because both of them use violence as a means, for social change, to achieve social change. So, the revolutionary these days is in a very precarious position. And if they are paying attention and they're aware of my videos, they know it is quite fortuitous that I have explained these things. And
Any asinine attempt at a rebuttal will be laughed and scoffed at, perhaps even mocked. The difference between someone like me mocking someone and, a shell mocking somebody is that people see me do it, they know that I'm right. People see them do it only if they are in a kind of trance-like state of complete submission to propaganda, social norms, and the unscrupulous propagandist. Do they think that that is correct? You also have to look at nature again. Do animals in nature maintain social norms, or do they do what is instinctual, natural, and spiritually correct, perhaps? I do not deny my natural self. Obviously, there's some things that animals do that I don't do, and we're not going to get into those things, because I'm also civilized, because it is a civilized society. But that doesn't mean that we should separate ourselves from sacred morality, principle, and nature. An animal believes in the hunt, and on some level, he has justified the hunt to himself. And he is willing to die one day defending his territory for the purpose of hunting or hunting. That is what separates man from animal. Is man is willing to die as well. He doesn't want to die just like the animal, but he's willing to put himself in a situation, higher man. A higher man. He's willing to put himself in a situation where he may die for honor and belief. This is a spiritual hunt, if you will, where in order for the righteous to grow, I must address the unrighteous, the unscrupulous. A lot of people don't understand this. What you see going on is a war where evil is effectively targeting good people and keeping them from having children, trying to get them to settle, doing whatever they can to give evil the upper hand and to stigmatize and play out good and to take away, to degrade, to demoralize, to destabilize good. Kind of like the government is destabilizing or attempting to do those things to ISIS. They're also attempting to do those things to good revolutionaries as they have grouped us all together. I refuse to submit to them, to violate the Horus Scrolls, and I'm not going to let the fact that there's a war on radical Islam and Islamic fundamentalists and some Muslim revolutionaries as well, who aren't terrorists, I'm not going to let that stop me from emphasizing that Malcom X was right. Martin Luther King was better at giving speeches. Malcom X had a superior philosophy. What you see, right, is a result of integration. Who pays these celebrities and puts them on? Whites and Jews, right? The ones in power, not the average ones, obviously. Okay, who pays them? Who controls masonry? Where did masonry start? It started in the UK, in England, right? Where there's Scotland right next door, in Wales and what have you, right? The United Kingdom, and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and also Rothschild. And Rothschild has a lot of power in England. And we all know about the Battle of Waterloo and before that when he amassed his fortune and he was dealing with royalty to do so. So when you look at this thing, Masonry has been hoeing royalty around the same way Rothschild has, but on the same token, they also have been working together and making agreements and understandings with each other. It's kind of a secret war behind the scenes to control the destiny of mankind. At least that's how they see it. And there's some truth in that. These are the same people that control black people, generally speaking. Blacks in the military, in a roundabout way, are controlled by Masons and Jews and Jewish Masons and white Masons and some Asians and, so on. Because they're in this, they haven't separated. Even though we have places like Harlem and Oakland and Detroit, in parts of the South that are more black than others, we still are under their control. We're playing follow the leader. Not me, but most blacks. They're not resisting, defying, or transcending. They're following these people. You know, when I was younger, it was probably Eddie Murphy and people like this, right? You know, as we get older, you know, and when I was younger too, it was Snoop Dogg and, you know, Dr. Dre and, you know, the R&B singers, you know, Tyrese and what have you, right? And now we have, you know, and Jay-Z when I was younger, and even now, and Beyonce and Rihanna and these black movie stars, Wesley Snipes, and you know, there's Russell Simmons, richer black people involved in entertainment and what have you. Okay, these people are all controlled by whites and Jews. Period. Everything they're doing is consistent with the Babylonian system and the New World Order philosophies. You know, just today on the radio, I heard Jay-Z and some female, you know, giving a speech about women's rights. You know, trying to attach third-wave feminism to first. You know, it's a very sick thing that they do. They try to use movements from people who would not approve of anti-Christian agendas. You know, first-wave feminists were mostly Christians, like Abigail Adams. And, you know, then what do? Right? Well, Abigail Adams was America's first feminist. So what do? They then say, well, you know, these issues are still around today, and who's addressing them but the new age, the new era, the new wave motherfuckers. This is the problem here. This is why we need to separate spiritually, politically, physically, emotionally, because a lot of us are emotionally attached to the puppets that they put on, you know, the Hollywood coons. We cannot function effectively as black people, speaking of black people right now in the end, unless we separate, because we're hopelessly dependent on the celebrities who depend on the white man. This video is titled, Why Globalism? Again, I think we need to get our freedom by any means necessary. I believe in separate nations, separated societies. And I think that it is a bad idea to have a global society. Okay, so let me just answer the question in a nutshell, then we'll explore it some more. Why globalism? Why do they want a global world? Well, the resources are spread out, and so are the people. Now, as rich people, they want the best of everything. The best women, the nicest clothes, you know, the best food, the best of everything. And the only way to get the best of everything is to have access to everything and to control it. Control the resources, control the minds and hearts of the people, and get them to respect the rich by attacking Abrahamic philosophies and any other philosophy that makes rich people look bad, either attacking it from the inside and altering it, destroying it, or both. That's why they push atheism, Satanism, and controlled versions of these religions. We must change this by any means necessary. Can't stress that enough, because this is horrible for people. A lot of you liberals want to play stupid about it. This is very horrible for us all. It might be good for, say, Mexicans and Hispanics, South Americans, Central Americans, to migrate to America for the time being. But later on down the line, when we live in a global society and your descendants, the most attractive of them, are whores to an even greater degree, you know, for the New World Order, it's not so good for you. So you might say, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. When you get to it, it will be way too late. Look at the trajectory of mind control and population control. By the time we get there, you know, we will live in a society where whites and Jews and some Asians run the whole show, and there's some token blacks, you know, helping them out as well, and some token minorities. Now, some might say we're already there. Well, we're not quite there. We're very close. That's why they're fighting this war on terror, you know, because we're close but no cigar. But soon there will be the cigar. Why globalism? Because they want to take over the world. It's funny when I see people talk about globalism and globalism 2.0 and so on, as if it's a good thing. You know, we're going to increase technology, we're going to modernize these nations and so on and so forth. You're going to enslave these nations with your technology. You may improve the standard of living for people. You know, there may be an increase. You know, their material wealth, you know, will increase a little bit. The average, you know, living standard will slightly increase, perhaps. One thing is for sure, your control will greatly increase. It will immensely increase. And that is rather perturbing. When you have unethical, indecorous brutes and their globalist masters telling you what to do everywhere you go, their technology in your home. Now, most of you don't understand that gang stalking has proven beyond any doubt what conspiracy theorists were saying for a long time is true. The difference is the method. They want you to assume that, say, your TV, you know, that, oh, your TV, you know, has a camera inside of it. It might. It probably doesn't. But when people check it and scrutinize it, right, they'll say, well, it's not true. And then from then on, whenever anyone says that there is surveillance equipment in every household, people will say, oh, that's what they used to think back in 2016. And then we disproved them. You know, we disproved it. And then people say, oh, that's that, you know, tinfoil hat stuff. When in actuality, they will have equipment. You know, whether they turn it on or not, whether they archive every moment or not, who knows? But I do believe we're moving toward that. We're moving toward a time when we will all be under surveillance everywhere, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. And they will be archiving, you know, they will be storing every second of your life. So then when they wish to single you out, they can go back and review it. If you do not think this is disturbing, there is something seriously wrong with you. I assure you the people in charge are sickos that recruit sickos. This is how it is. And if you think that I'm okay with it, you're a fool. If you think that I'm wrong about it, you're a greater fool. The only chance that the races have, but you know, I like to talk about black people, but I think every race should separate, is to separate. Is to separate and demand, you know, fair market value for their goods. Not to let other countries come into theirs and build their infrastructure and take the lion's share back home to their elitists. This is not even good for the people of those nations, you know, for the most part, because it goes back to the greedy. You know, we have a situation already where a small group of people own like 50, 60% of the wealth in the world or something like that. You know, I forgot what it is, but I'll put it in the comments when I look it up. We already have this situation. You have to look at the trajectory of things, right? These people are building the pyramid of the oppressor incrementally. In Egypt, it was a fairly decent society. This is God's plan backwards. This is the Egyptian Mayat backwards. And they're incrementally building it. And when they're done, their finished product, so to speak, well, they'll never truly be done. They'll always be twerking a little bit. But when they've reached their goals, then it will be this kind of world that I've described. You know, Orwell was correct, whether he was in a secret society or not, that is, you have to look at the trajectory of things. Where are we going? What is the direction of humanity? And why? You know, why do they hate people like me? Why aren't there too many people like me? Was that just, did people naturally adapt to the expectations of society? Or are they carefully engineering it and twerking it, you know, tweaking it, rather. Well, some of them were twerking it, right? These celebrity whores and so on. But anyway, and making sure when they make these adjustments that things were going according to plan. You know, the idea stayed the same. The agenda stayed the same. The machine evolved. So what do we do, right? What can we do about this? Do we integrate more effectively? That is exactly what they want us to do. For these black leaders who think that's the answer, they are leading us toward a future of subservience and second-class citizenship, which has Bob Marley turning in his grave, in which their families will be rewarded for generations of service. It's great for them. Oh, they will look for any way to spin it and make it sound like what we need to do. It's great for them in their minds, you know. Financially, certainly it is. Socially, perhaps. But it is horrible for humanity, for the masses, spiritually, you know, politically, socially, ethically, morally. Moral relativism leads to moral bankruptcy. The whole idea of morality is that it is consistent. It is static. It doesn't change. If you say, well, depending on the situation, no, it doesn't change. You look at everything with the same moral lens, the same lens of morality, the same compass. The directions are the same. To say, you know, it's a relative compass. What kind of shit is that? The compass stays the same. The directions are the same. You find your way because the compass works a certain way. It doesn't change based on how you're feeling or what age you live in. These nihilistic dogs are going to control everybody. They're going to have sex with anyone they wish, and they will fucking coerce them financially, physically intimidate them, socially sabotage them, romantically sabotage them. These people do this all the time, and they're refining it. All the lowly things that they do, the detestable activities that they partake in, they're refining. All the sick little experiments that the mad pseudoscientists are performing, you know, are being done for a reason. They're refining their ability to control human behavior. And if you think that is okay, you're a fucking idiot. If you think we need to control human behavior to keep people safe, you're an idiot. What we need to do is punish unethical, immoral activities, not control human behavior. There's a difference, and it's not a small difference either. It is an enormous difference. These megalomaniacs are way out of control. They've gone way too far, and they're still going in the same direction. And that direction is the direction of humanity as well. This is what happens when you let the same unscrupulous, mega wicked bloodlines control humanity generation after generation for decades and perhaps hundreds of years. To want to separate from evil is only natural. Buddhist monks, you know, Catholic monks, these aren't the only people that realize that the best way to live a righteous life is to separate from evil and to try to avoid evil having too much control over you. And certainly direct control over you is very bad. So they try to separate themselves because the wickedness of the world is drowning out the voice of reason in their head, and it is, blocking their connection with God. It's very interesting how this works. I'm going to end by saying this. It is like when I am in the hells, right? And my cell phone has a bad connection. My cell phone has a bad connection with humanity, with this world. But my spirit has a powerful connection with the spiritual world. Perhaps because of that, it is a lot more clear to me than everyone else what is going on, what must be done, and it is a lot more disturbing because I've separated myself from the oppressors and their inferior philosophies, and it has allowed me a certain moral clarity, a certain mental focus that all their drugs and gang stalking and psyops hasn't destroyed. And I feel, I know, I see, I understand what must be done.